The Crystal City, a place previously thought uninhabitable, until now. With a mission to eliminate the hostile environment, counters pair up with familiar faces, but on this mission, they didn't know that they were about to gain 2 more allies, powerful allies that could push a commander to fully reclaiming the surface. Since chapter 30, we've known that Grave is in the Crystal region for a heretic thought long dead. Her mission, her entire objective, was to safeguard what she deemed as her treasure. This treasure was Anachiro, a heretic who killed hundreds during her time fighting against Goddess a century ago. Little did we know, both Grave and her treasure were friend rather than foe. The latest 2 chapters of NIKKE's story revealed many things to us, one of the most terrifying being the inclusion of a new faction of heretics. These heretics are dubbed as the 4 Beasts. Through these 2 chapters, we meet Behemoth firsthand, but also see mention of Leviathan, hearing only her voice and nothing more. Behemoth and Leviathan are both represented in our everyday lives as well. Both along with Ziz are mentioned in the Bible, Behemoth being mentioned in the book of Job and Leviathan in both Job and Psalms. Ziz is mentioned in Psalms 50, and all are considered monsters of chaos. These monsters in NIKKE are already displayed to be foes far stronger than any heretic we faced before, and the stage was properly set in order for us to have a battle where all was on the line. Diving a bit deeper into what each beast represent, we can make a pretty clear guess based on biblical text. Behemoth is known as a beast with bronze pipes and limbs like iron bars. It's a perfect representation of the character in NIKKE and her ability to stand before countless volleys of bullets without receiving so much as a scratch. Leviathan was a sea serpent, and in NIKKE, it is stated and confirmed through text that she primarily resides in the sea. That's right, all of our fun times during the summer event could have ended in catastrophe if we ran into this sassy heretic who roams the deep. Though we don't know anything about Leviathan in NIKKE, it's safe to say that she's stronger than Behemoth. The way she orders Behemoth around in their brief conversation suggests that she's higher up on the power scaling. A truly terrifying thought considering the fact that Behemoth already could single-handedly kill both Counters, Absolute, and Grave if she so pleased. The 4th heretic in their group is currently unknown, but following biblical text once more, the 3rd could be Ziz, a heretic who rules over the sky. In the Hebrew Bible, it was a bird whose wingspan was so wide it could block out the sun. Possibly, this heretic will act as an aerial assault over all those she comes into contact with. This destructive force not only wanted to dispose of the NIKKEs and the commander, but they also had another objective. They wanted to retrieve Anachiro, the first heretic and their predecessor. Dead or alive, they would use her body for their own twisted goals, and if that were to happen, it would plummet humanity even further from reclaiming the surface. Sure, Behemoth is strong, but according to Grave, Anachiro in her prime is far stronger. If a NIKKE of that strength were to fall to the Raptures, there would be no hope in even getting close to the Queen. Due to this fact, and not seeing Grave as a threat, the group decides to aid Grave in her mission. This mission wouldn't be without hardships, and it was to retrieve Anachiro's beloved weapons, the glass slippers. It is important to say that both Anachiro, or in this case Cinderella, and her weapon are remarkable to say the least. Cinderella's body is practically impenetrable, able to withstand assault after assault of weaponry if she were to come under fire. Due to the components used in her creation, she's incredibly resilient, and her weapons are exactly the same. Only Cinderella can wield them, and only through her can these weapons function. It would explain why Noah's shield looks so similar to hers. She probably was unable to inherit such weaponry, therefore, inferior replicas were created. It is also important to remember the fact that Cinderella's creation is something completely foreign to the Ark too. Not even the brightest minds in the Ark could wrap their heads around her if she were to return. That is, if Grave is able to wake her. Through several battles fought with Behemoth and a lot of sacrifice, the group finds themselves right at the epicenter of their operation. Before them stands the towering glass slippers, the key to bring back what was once humanity's last hope. Grave, who had been lugging Cinderella around for decades, had taken the time to try and repair her as best as she could. Thanks to Behemoth's negligence leaving her base open, Grave had attempted several times to revive Cinderella, but to no avail. She was still damaged and needed time to heal. Now that the commander and his allies were aligned with Grave, the stage was set to rewrite history and pave a new way for humanity to reclaim what was once theirs. One sad thing to note is the fact that Grave is a mass-produced NIKKE, one who survived not only encounters with heretics and lived, but also succeeded in defending Cinderella all this time. She did all of this entirely alone. What humanity struggled to accomplish, Grave did all by herself. Every hard-fought battle, every near-death encounter, all the hardships and heartache she faced was about to be rectified. Grave had not only been restored by mana, but also closer than ever to reviving who she described as her idol, her treasure. In the brawl that follows with Behemoth, the commander, counters, Absolute, and Grave give every ounce of energy they have left. This was the final confrontation, the last push they could muster to bring back one of humanity's aces. With Vesti bisected, Crystos consuming Emma and Enhua, and the counters permanently out of commission, we see something from the commander that we never witnessed before. He'd already been impaled through the stomach by Behemoth, but that wasn't going to stop him. Unlike the cowards who squabble in the Ark, the commander is a man who fights tooth and nail for those he loves. Grave's whole reason for being, the reason she roamed the surface and this crystal landscape until near collapse, was to preserve a weapon to defend humanity. To the commander, this was something he could fully align with. The commander, knowing full well the potency of his blood, strikes Behemoth with a direct punch. Though it doesn't do so much as phase her, it's his final act to aid Grave and buy some time. With the commander tossed aside and all hope being lost, Behemoth takes hold of the coffin containing Cinderella. However, she had already been bested, and through the combined effort of humanity's strongest, Grave had succeeded in getting Cinderella to their target point. Upon awakening, Behemoth does all she can to bring Cinderella back to her side. However, the connection between Grave and her treasure proves to be unbreakable. Cinderella was essentially a clean slate upon waking, so Grave had to do all she could to remind her of who she once was, who she was created to be, a goddess of victory.
My face is badly damaged. You might not recognize me. My voice has changed as well. It may not sound familiar to you anymore.
Beautiful. You were always so beautiful. You still are. You protected me.
Cinderella?
What should I do now? Tell me, my greatest audience.
What we were supposed to do long ago. What we wanted to accomplish so badly, but were unable to. Our enemy. The enemy of humanity. Bring them down. My goddess of victory.
The audience has spoken. I will rewrite this story and continue it. Glass slippers fully connected. Let it rain.
Corruption consumes the deepest parts of one's subconscious, plunging the user into darkness. However, light will always penetrate that darkness. Cinderella's light was her greatest audience, the one she attested to saving her both back then and now. Grave, Cinderella's closest ally, had aged over time. Her face was riddled with scars and her voice far from what it once was. But despite this, Cinderella, a NIKKE whose life revolved around beauty, could do nothing more than see Grave as she always did, beautiful. The commander passes out as the conflict with Cinderella and Behemoth begins. However, when he awakens, he finds that Cinderella is beside his bed. They'd gotten back to Reclamation Site 01. They hadn't gone back to the Ark with Cinderella until The battle between Cinderella and Behemoth took place for quite some time, and it would appear that Cinderella had the upper hand. Behemoth did all she could to evade her attacks, giving the group a chance to fully escape unharmed. Grave and Cinderella are set on rewriting the past, while the Arc is set on erasing it. Colliding these two forces would only prove more harm than good. We find through the ending of chapter 32 that Grave and Cinderella were to join the Counters on their future missions. In an odd sort of way, they're almost like the second iteration of the Goddess Squad, paving the way to reclaiming the surface for humanity. Cinderella also feels she must rectify everything that she had done in the past. For her, upholding beauty is of the utmost. However, during her time trapped as a heretic, she describes it as a period where she was her most hideous. Now, with newfound allies who fully devote their trust in her, an old friend who never abandoned her, and a commander whose ideals align with her own, she's able to turn a new leaf. Her goal hasn't changed, and that's to fight to reclaim the surface. The elegant beauty that is Cinderella can finally live out her deepest desires, to be just as her predecessors were, a true goddess of victory.